did. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Schockling. I'm the Assistant Director of On-Campus Programs excuse me, in the Office of Alumni Relations, and I would like to welcome you all to our third real-life story series this year, featuring Emma Friedman, class of 2007. Some of you may have noticed the Loyal Scott eligible sign outside, and if you haven't heard about that yet, it's our recognition program for our most engaged members of the CMU student and alumni community. To be recognized as a Loyal Scott, you need to do 4 things, and you did 2 of them just by being here tonight. You need to update your contact information with us, which you did if you registered. You need to attend an event or volunteer. You need to make a gift of any size to any program, department, or student organization on campus. And you need to be an advocate for the university, which you can also do by telling everybody about how awesome this program is, or any other young alumni programs, or other programs that come out of the Office of Alumni Relations and Annual Giving. Speaking of those, our next Story Series event is March 28th, and it features 2 young women who are on their way to being doctors. They're going to be sharing their stories. But let's get started now by turning the event over to Emma Friedman, who is going to be speaking to us about her experience here at Carnegie Mellon, and now as she is an employee with the Department of Defense. So let's welcome Emma to the podium.
Okay, so I tried to talk to a few of you before we started, so I kind of have an idea of your background, but I'm not going to go very in-depth with the technical aspects of my job. I'm going to kind of breeze over my background before I came to Carnegie Mellon, talk a little bit about what I did once I was here, how I got the job that I have. I'm going to go a little in depth into the current position and the different things I've done at the DoD, but again, shy away from the technical aspects of phased array radar systems, because I know that's not everybody's forte. And then I'm going to discuss professional challenges that I face based on a multitude of issues, just by being myself, and then we can have some questions. If you have questions about any of these things during the presentation, feel free to just raise your hand and ask. So it's interactive as you want. So I am from Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a Midwesterner. I was very active with tennis, gymnastics, and crew and math in high school. Loved math, loved rowing. So when I came here, I did all those same things over again. And I was originally interested in chemical engineering and Russian literature. That's what I thought I was coming to Carnegie Mellon for. I ended up getting accepted as a student to the Science and Humanities Scholars Program. So I could still do multidisciplinary. You can kind of do whatever you want. You can make your own major. It was the first year that we had Newhouse, and we all lived together, and it was really fun. So I ended up with degrees in math and statistics after I did an REU, the Research Experience for Undergraduates, and I got an NSF grant to do math research. So I kind of realized that I liked the math part of engineering the best, stuck with that, and then added on philosophy because we have to be interdisciplinary and it's fun. And then I did crew and cheerleading all 4 years, and I was the captain of the cheerleading squad and varsity crew forever. Loved the sports here. And of course, math club, I couldn't live without it, so there wasn't one when I got here. So a few of my SHS friends and I got together and we founded another one. I did Amnesty International for about a year until I realized that you can't really have a government job and be an active Amnesty International participant. The mission conflicts a little bit. And then I was a teaching assistant and grader for Professor Mackey for a number of years, and in the math department. Did combinatorics, linear algebra, and calculus. So kind of broad-based everything, like everyone at Carnegie Mellon. But basically, when I was trying to figure out what job I wanted, I pretty much knew I wanted to do government service. I felt like we always spend so much time critiquing our local government and our federal government, but very few of us take the time to try to participate in it and change it and understand it better and understand why is our defense budget so large? Why do we have all these taxes? So I think I have a much more thorough grasp of those issues now. But a lot of things drew me to government service. Originally, I wanted to do cryptology and work for the NSA. It's the best math job I could think of. And the work-life balance is supposed to be great. And after going to Carnegie Mellon and sleeping 3 hours a night and working 22 hours and somehow trying to get that to add to 24, I wanted something where I could come home from work and be done with work. Also, I think a lot of people come out of Carnegie Mellon with a lot of debt. And I was lucky enough not to, and I wanted to keep it that way. And the government actually gives you a pretty good educational stipend for a master's, which is great. So I ended up working full-time and getting a master's full-time at Georgetown, which was really fun. Again, math. And then the vacation time for the government is great. You get days off, you can still visit your friends and your family, and everyone from Carnegie Mellon was from somewhere different. So when I left, I had friends all over the world, so I wanted to have time to go visit. For my job, I also travel a huge amount, so it affords me the opportunity to kind of join personal travel and work travel, which is really fun. So I was interviewing with the NSA, and I actually didn't get the job I wanted. They went for a PhD candidate, and they said I just didn't have enough experience, which was very true. But when I was leaving the interview, there was this kind of guy skulking in the corner, and I thought that maybe he had just been rejected from the same job interview that I was rejected from. And I started talking to him, and he was actually a recruiter from the Department of Defense, and he was poaching people that hadn't gotten jobs. So be friendly to everybody when you are job searching. So I actually just gave him my resume on the spot, and he called me a few weeks later and offered me the job. Said you just have to do a little phone interview. If you want it, it's yours. I opted for an in-person interview because I wanted to be very thorough with my job selection process. 7 people, when I interviewed, said, "Why do you want this job? You're so overqualified. You know so much math, and this is just a management training program." But obviously there's a lot of great reasons to work for the government, and I was sure it's what I wanted to do, and I'm still sure that I made the right decision. There's a lot of people that kind of try to deter you on your path, but if you know what you want, you can get there and you can do really well. So just press through. So I ended up working for the DoD. The specific office that I work for is in the Department of Navy, and it's called Naval Sea Systems Command. Once I got in, this is what I was specifically hired into. This is a lot of acronyms, and I'm going to go through them. I have follow-on presentations. If anyone wants a more technical background, we can get into that afterwards, one-on-one. So the management training program, the first group that I came into was called DDG 1000. DDG is the Guided Missile Destroyer Ship Platform. The DDG 1000 is the brand new future generation stealth guided missile destroyer. I came into this program and I was like, this is it. I am here. This is what I wanted to do. This is amazing. I sound awesome. This is so cool. Then you realize that it's the government. You're understaffed. You have no money. You have no idea what you're doing. You have 7 layers of red tape. So you get, you're thrown to the wolves right away, which was kind of what I like. It's a challenge, right? So on the DDG 1000 office, we focused very heavily on procurement. It was a brand new ship system. It had 10 new mission system essential components ranging from radars, missiles, acoustic sensors, just an integrated power system. It doesn't have a traditional engine like an old ship. It has this fight-through power. It's just this massive power system. It's like a power generator in the bottom of the ship. So all this new technology that I had never heard of that I was being exposed to. Right after I worked with them, I thought, okay, I love this mission system essential stuff. So I went to work for the Mission System Essential Ship Integration Platform Manager. It's the person who works with every ship in the fleet and helps them get the MSE, the equipment that they need. So I was like, this is even better. I get to be chatty. I get to talk to everybody. I get to integrate. This is the position for me. I love it. So I did that for a while, but of course it's a management training program, so after 3 months you have to move on. I went to work at SWARMAC, which is the Southwest Regional Maintenance Center. I thought personally, I have all this top-level experience, all this, Washington, D.C., which is where I live, headquarters experience. And I just didn't feel that I had enough fleet experience. What does a sailor do day one when he gets on a ship? How do they use a radar system on a ship? You see movies of like people watching little green lights blinking across screens. Like, is that real? Is that fake? It's real. It's horrible. So, that was weird. So I wanted the fleet experience. I wanted to know, what do my systems look like once they go on a ship? Who are these guys and women maintaining them? So I got to work there for 3 months. The ship I was assigned to was 487 stairs to get to the top of the ship every morning. So that is water shipyard experience. That's hard labor, and you're carrying stuff, and whew, those guys are amazing. So then I came back, and I actually did the polar opposite of working in the shipyard. I went straight to the Pentagon. OPNAV N86 is the resource sponsor department in the Pentagon for future ships. So I was basically back with my future ship and future emission systems equipment experience, back with those people, begging for money to try to do improvements that I knew were necessary. I've been working for like a year and a half now, so it was interesting. Then I went to PMS 400 FRC, which basically is the command that gets rid of old US equipment. So I thought, okay, I know about the future stuff, I know about the current stuff in the fleet, what do we do with it when we're done? Well, obviously we sell it to foreign countries. And who loves travel? I love travel. This is great. I'll go to this office. So I started working with foreign military sales, and I actually set up the Foreign Military Sale International Frigate Working Group. A frigate is this huge old supply ship that just kind of floats around the ocean, and I still don't really know what they do, but I was really good at selling them. So we got to go to Istanbul, we got to go to cool countries all over the world and work with people that needed these ships. I don't know. So that was really exciting. After that, I figured, okay, I have so much ship experience. I've never even seen a submarine. And I'm supposed to be like well-rounded Navy. I'm almost at the end of my management program. Never even seen a submarine. So I went to NAVCO7Q, which is actually the submarine safety program. Arguably the most stringent, tightly run program in the entire Navy. I mean, submarines are nuclear. You do not mess around with a submarine. It's a teeny little vessel with a lot of people on it, a lot of firepower. Those things have to be safe. So I actually did safety auditing, which I thought was the best way to learn everything about a submarine in a short period of time. And it was amazing. Those are the most straight shooting people you will ever meet. There's no comedy, there's no sarcasm, there's no chit chat. It's just work all the time. So I learned a lot in a very short period of time. It wasn't a good fit for me personality-wise, but I was able to develop a comprehensive metrics program for them using a bunch of math that they loved. So left the program with them and skedaddled. Then I ended up in POIWS 2, which is where I currently work. IWS is the integrated weapons systems. So I actually work with all the weapons and warfare systems, and 2 is my code. 2 is the above water sensors. So those are all of your above water sensors, which radar is included. Within the radar program, there are kind of the old school radars that you see in movies that are on top of ships and they spin and they beep, and then there are the new ones, which are phased array radars, which is what I work with. A phased array radar basically looks like this panel on this wall. It's just a flat mount. You mount it on a building, you mount it on a ship. That's your radar system. So obviously a little more weather safe, a little easier to install, things like that. So it's the future of radar, a flat wall panel. So basically, as a logistics manager of phased array radar programs, I manage 6 programs. The dual band radar is the newest and greatest radar. It's being produced right now. It's co-produced by Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. It's a combination S-band and X-band radar, for any of you that are familiar. It also comes with its own common array power system and common array cooling system. It is so monumental. It needs its own power and its own cooling separate from that's already built into the ship. The Spy-1 radar is an older version of the newest and greatest phased array radars, and it's what's on every cruiser and every destroyer that's already out in the fleet. So Spy-1 radar is kind of the old guy going away. The tactical environment processor is basically a fancy Doppler radar. It's a weather radar. It plugs into the multi-mission signal processor in the SPY-1 radar, and it overlays radar data with weather data. I don't know why this is so cool and so new and why it got assigned to me, because it seems like we have Doppler. So we're still in the beginning process of figuring out what we want the system to eventually be. The sailors love it. They throw it up on the screens when they're working on the ship, and it's like watching the Weather Channel. They love it. So I don't know. I guess it's cool. I'm still learning. The single duty switch tube is another component of the SPY-1 radar that we are developing from start to finish, and it's actually a reliability improvement. So this is, again, where I get to use a lot of math and crunch a lot of numbers. We have a system that was supposed to last between failures about 15,000 hours. It's only lasting 5,000 hours between failures. So obviously, if you have to replace it 3 times as much, it costs 3 times as much. Nobody likes huge cost avoidance. That, we could avoid this, so we're going to redesign it. We're going to fix it, hopefully. So those are the 6 programs that I manage right now. When I travel, I normally travel to a factory to see how we're doing. I'll check all the faults that are happening in production, and I'll see if they're related to any of my issues in the logistics realm. And then if they're not, I'll pass them on to the technical guys that I work with. And so we kind of tag team working all the issues that come up either in the fleet or in production. So I guess before we get into professional challenges and what logistics is, does anyone have any questions about the rotations or about the programs themselves? Yes.
Emma, it sounds like you had some choices for where you would get this time.
Yeah, so the management training program is 3 years, and you can do as many or as few rotations as you would like. It's very loose. You can also do 1 travel rotation, which was my waterfront one, where I actually moved to San Diego for 3 months, all expenses paid. So they let you pretty much create your own path. So for somebody like me, it was an amazing opportunity. For somebody who is not really a self-starter, it's a very horrible structure because you don't branch out to your resources. You don't talk to people. You don't go, hey, I have an afternoon free because I'm just a management trainee. What are you doing? Can I follow you to your meeting? I've done that so many times. And then they go to this meeting, and I'm like, I didn't even know we did foreign military sales in this building. So you meet people, you branch out, and you can kind of, get them to sign off on, okay, I'll take Emma into my program. I'll be her mentor for 3 months. It's free labor for them. So if they think that you're going to be a producer, they'll take you. So I was really lucky to get a bunch of great contacts right away, to get a bunch of people who had faith in me and thought I would be a producer. So they took the time to mentor me. So it was pretty sweet. But yeah, I had a lot of freedom, which I'm very grateful for. I know people who I don't know how to say this nicely, but if you don't come across very well, nobody wants to take you on, and you get stuck in very horrible rotations and you don't learn anything. So it's just, always put your best face out there and always be ready to learn, because you can find really interesting things in an area where you might think it's really boring. So, but yeah, we had a lot of freedom. Anything else? Okay. So, although I personally think that my job is very fun and very interesting, it's not without its challenges. I think the first challenge is probably just defining what it is that I do. And I know this sounds funny because you get hired to a job, so everyone should know what your job is because you got hired into it, but that's just not true. So logistics has 10 very, very, very separate elements, and then at the end, product support management, which is a new requirement, which basically just means you have to not only be fluent in these 10 issues, you have to be amazing enough to manage all of them. So on top of just being good at our jobs, we now have to be spectacular with no additional training. So this is an interesting requirement, and we'll get there. But what is logistics? So it's not just shipping and transportation. It's obviously not what I do. Just taking one of these supply support, for example, I need to know when I ship my radar to a base or to a military vessel, what needs to go with it? What kind of supply equipment does it need? And I don't just guess, okay, this is a laptop, it needs a power charger. Okay, done. I don't guess like that. For a really complex system, like a $3 billion ship, you have to do a pretty complex analysis for what spares it needs on board. So it's a really heavy math analysis. It's really heavy understanding the reliability of the components. Supply support is so much more than just shipping a spare part. It's determining when, where, how many do you need these parts to go. And we have fields all over the world. So I need to be able to ship the right part at the right time all over the world. And it takes a lot of math analysis up front to have those parts ready. Technical data, you need to be familiar enough with your radar system that you can look at any technical data, whether it's a drawing of your system, whether it's a technical manual telling you how to troubleshoot or fix it. I mean, the last thing anyone wants is for an incoming missile to come in and your radar to detect it and then go into troubleshooting mode. So, we need to have these troubleshooting modes down fast. Technical data is what gets you there. It's the technical manual that tells people how to maintain the systems, how to repair the systems, how to perform procedures on them. Manpower and personnel, if you're designing an entirely new ship, what people do you need where? It's a manpower analysis. What types of skills and abilities and knowledge do these people need to have? I actually have to develop their training to use my system. It's just design interface. It's human systems interface. It's, I don't put the microphone over there on the wall. I put it on the podium. It sounds so simple with a microphone, but on a radar, where do you put all the switches? Where do you put all the sensors? Where do you put things? It gets a lot more complicated when you have 6,000 parts that you're trying to manage. One of my radars has 60,000 parts. So, these are all very different elements. I have entire teams that would work on one of these that I just supervise. That's how in-depth and how much money it costs to run these efficiently. So defining what my job is, becoming good at these elements, and also conveying the cost savings of being proficient at these elements to your management is very challenging. There's some people that come in and say, I don't like logistics. And so I have to say, good, I'm not a logistician, I'm an engineer. Okay, good, we get along now. So, who knows? So defining my job and spinning it is very challenging. Logistics is traditionally undervalued. You're not an engineer. So a lot of places don't like you. But you can be an engineer and be a logistician. That's what I did. That's what a lot of my counterparts did, and they have a great time at it. Being semi-competent at logistics gets you promoted a lot. There are a lot of people that are very bad at it. So promotions are actually a professional challenge. You get promoted before you're ready. And even if it's not you, you work with people that get promoted before they're ready. So, that can be challenging. You're working with people with very different backgrounds, very different skills and abilities. I work in the military. I walk into a meeting. There are a number of reasons that I stand out. I'm 5 feet tall. There's a study that actually most military admirals are over 6 feet tall. They actually get promoted based on what they look like in some areas. They want you to be 6 feet tall, they want you to be married, and you have to be in shape. And you get promoted easier that way. Fine, that's great. It's a model human being, I guess. Who knows? I'm a female, I'm 5 feet tall, I'm 20 to 30 years younger than anybody in the room. How do I fit in this environment? I think it really comes down to respect. Everybody has such diverse backgrounds, and you cannot judge. You can't say, I went to Carnegie Mellon, and then I did my postdoc at MIT, and I know everything. Because there's somebody who never went to school, and they've been working in the fleet or in the military for 40 years, and they know so much more than you. They know so much more than you will ever know, ever. My boss, who I think is the most amazing boss I've ever had, I've only worked for 5 years, but I've had a lot of bosses with those rotations. She's amazing. And I just recently found out she started working when she was 16, never went to school, just has been doing this her whole life. She's fabulous at it because she pushes herself. She learns all the new things. She reads all the new policy. She knows everything. She's terrifying. So you have to respect people's backgrounds and figure out where they're coming from. There is a generation gap with people I work with. I talk quickly. I talk over people, and I realize I can't do that. You can't do that in a professional environment. You have to slow down. You have to listen to people. These are your superiors in some cases. I'm now in the position where I have people that work for me that are 50 or 60 years old. It's an awkward situation. You need to really figure out how to handle that delicately. Every team member is valuable, and you have to make them feel valuable, or else your team doesn't produce. Yep, I'm a female. I'm teeny. I have a high voice. These are all realities of my situation. So when I go into a meeting, if I know it's going to be all men, which mostly when I work, it's 5 to 10% female. So if I'm in a room of 30 or 40 people, 1, maybe 2 females in the room. So that's a hard thing to handle. It's hard to be taken seriously in that situation. Everyone thinks you're somebody's assistant. Until you take a seat at the head table, then, you're fine. But, so, you just dress appropriately for the meeting. If you're going to a male meeting, you wear neutral tones. Don't wear a ton of makeup. Don't wear blingy jewelry. Just dress down. It helps people take you more seriously. It's not true for every professional field, obviously, but it's very true for mine. So there are things you can do through respect, through your appearance, that really make you stand out less. It's not about being a female. It's not about being 5 feet tall. It's just about the fact that you stand out. And you really want to be able to work with these people as a team. So how do you fit into this team, and how do you lead this team from within? Military background. I don't have one. I didn't serve 20 years in any military field. So a lot of people did. You have to really find the value that they have and pull it out of them. Same with education. If you didn't go to school, you were doing something for 30 years. Tell me what you did. I'm sure it was impressive, because we're all working together now. So, in the same way that you find other people's value, you have to find your value. If you stand out in a room, figure out why. Figure out how that can be a benefit. Figure out how that's something great that you can own. A lot of my friends came into a position like this, and they know how to use a computer. And they're awesome. That's a skill that they have. Their bosses still like, typing things, or still like doing things by hand. And that's fine, because for some of the work that we do, if we're drafting radar sketches, we don't necessarily need a computer. But to be the person that can type 80 words a minute and get it up the chain of command faster, that's a skill that you have. So realize all those skills, they're not demeaning. They're amazing things that you bring to the table. So just find your value and figure out what you can do to add to the team instead of just detract from it. And that's pretty much all I had on what I do. Does anyone have any questions? I know Andrea has like 30, so.
I do. Emma and I were talking beforehand about both her specific background and specific challenges. And so I pushed her a little bit, and I'm going to ask her the same questions that she has had some time to think about. Have you had an opportunity where your being female was an asset to you in your career?
Right. So we were talking about all the times where you stand out, but when is it good to stand out like that? So Andrew's like, there's got to be something. Let's find the good. No, actually, in my career there hasn't been. But for many other people, I know there have been. I have a strong female boss. A lot of teams are looking for diversity, and they'll bring on, you don't make it through the interview process unless you're qualified. So this isn't some kind of just because you're female you're brought onto the team. It's not like that. But if there aren't females on a team, they're looking to bring on women. So that's a great thing. I think that there are a lot of diversity groups within the government, so you can bond with other females in other departments. And so I think that's kind of great to be able to use that as a networking tool. But professionally, for me, no, has not been an asset recently. Yes?
Did they have higher expectations for you for a certain job, or lower expectations compared to a male?
No, I think actually I've been very lucky in the team that I currently work with, and they treat us very similar. So their expectations are exactly the same. I think what happens as you continue to outdo yourself, everyone's expectations for you rise. So coming in, male versus female didn't matter very much, but I'm the kind of person that not only do I want to do the project, but then I want to brief it to somebody else, and then I want to make it better, and then I want to brief it again to somebody else. So, I think your expectations for yourself are probably higher. So other people begin to expect more of you. But I don't necessarily know that's a female thing, maybe just an Emma thing. Yes?
So I guess like since you've worked with a lot of past military personnel, a lot of times the management structure and the style is very intense and people don't cut corners in how they phrase things. So how do you deal with, someone basically kind of
Yelling at you?
ordering you? Yeah, yelling at you.
Yeah.
Something isn't ready.
Okay, do not cry in the workplace. It's probably like the number one. I mean, not all women, obviously, but I get emotional sometimes. I didn't get very much sleep last night. I was working all night, and I come into the office, and I can just feel that I'm a little unbalanced. Do not go to that meeting if you're going to cry. You cannot cry in the workplace, but you really just have to get thick skin. And I think for me, getting thick skin was aided by the fact that I had the right resources to always know that I was doing the right thing. So if you're unsure with what you're doing or why you, this thing came across my desk and I reviewed it and I submitted comments and I have a really queasy feeling about the product. I was really upset with the quality or something like that. I can go to somebody higher and I can say, is this normal? Did I do this correctly? I don't understand. And I really try to make sure that my opinions are validated not only by myself, but by my boss, by my coworkers. Because if you know that you're right more often than not, when you're ordered around to do something that you disagree with, it's a lot easier to take because you know you're going to do the right thing eventually. If somebody tells you that you're wrong and you know you're right, there's only so many times you can correct them in public. You can say, no, I checked with so-and-so and this is correct, before you just have to defer the argument. You know what, let's talk later about this. I see your point, so let's talk later. So it helps a lot to kind of just take the situation out of where you feel like you're going to get really upset. Take a few minutes to calm down, maybe call in your boss if you need to. So if somebody's treating you like that, you might need some backup.
Emma, were any of the managers that you worked with in the training process female?
No.
And how many, roughly, other women did you run into going through that process?
I think the incoming training programs are 50-50.
Okay.
I think the attrition for females is very high. Government benefits are pretty amazing, so I think a lot of people get into it thinking, this is great. I'm going to go into the government, I'm going to get all these great benefits, and I'm just going to have a cushy desk job, and I never see those people again. And that's men and women. That's just everybody. So while it's 50-50 going in, I don't necessarily know where all those people are coming out. There's only a few trainees that I've ever run into again, and I feel like I hit a lot of programs, so I feel like it's kind of weird that I don't run into these people. But yeah, I think attrition rates are very high. It can be a very demanding job if you want it to be.
Is there any plan for young women going through the program specifically to have access to women as mentors, even if it's not a formal mentor that you're placed with, but to just have some interaction with another woman in a position of authority?
We'd have to find one first. So my boss has been amazing. There's one other woman that I've worked with who's been just stellar. She's been fabulous. The two of them are really the only women that I've worked with that I would recommend be qualified as mentors in that situation. I know that I've personally had 4 interns since I got out of the intern program. I've only been out for 2 years, and I've already had 4 interns. So I know that they're trying to go that route. Here's a recent graduate. Here's a female. And it's men and women that I've had as interns, not just other female interns. But so I know they're trying to go that route. But I think the reality of the situation is we're busy. If you get a bad intern, you're ignoring that person. You don't have time. So it's really hard to find a quality person to mentor. And so it's in the same way that it's hard to find a quality mentor. So the program it's difficult. But I know they keep restarting it and keep trying to find people, but it's hard. Yes?
As an old, stodgy male with a lot of military training.
Yes. The haircut.
Can you advice for how to encourage, mentor, or support somebody in your situation?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people probably aren't as vocal as I am. So I share what I'm thinking whether that gets me into trouble or not. I mean, but I think that probably just encouraging people to ask questions is the best way to relate to people. You come into a new work environment, you have no idea what's going on. You get like a work packet that tells you, here's the CEO of your company. It's very hard to relate to that. Having time to sit down, whether it's just 1 hour a week, having that one-on-one time where you can ask me any question that you want, it really opens people up. You get to talk about your family, you get to talk about work things, anything you want. It's a personal and a professional mentoring session, and people really need that. They need to feel that connection. They need to feel like they're being heard. So, though it's just the one-on-one time. Andrea? Oh, yeah.
I'm waiting.
Yes?
Emma, what do you love about the job?
I love the travel. I love the new technology. I love when my analysis gets a really crazy number and then I get to prove it. So I like the challenge, but mostly the travel. I love my boss. I probably would have left long ago were it not for her. I think finding a great boss can be very challenging and shouldn't leave that situation. But yeah, it's a lot of things.
How long have you been under your current boss?
It'll be 2 years in June.
And 5 years total.
5 years total in May. Yeah.
What would you change if you had the power to do it?
Ooh. I would have not cried in that one meeting. That might be it. But let me just say that somebody threw a book at me, so I think that was justified, just saying that. But I think that probably going in with more of the attitude of respecting everybody around me, it's the one thing I would have changed. I went in a little bit hot-headed, and I think although that served me very well, I think I probably could have accomplished the same things and been a little bit more empathetic. Empathy is good. I don't have very much. I'm learning. Yeah, it's hard. So, yeah, the best and the brightest, I feel like maybe go straight to industry and skip the government a little bit. So it is difficult to work with the first few people that you meet. You have to find the brilliant people. There are brilliant people everywhere. You have to find them. So
you...
Oh.
We can stay on this.
Okay.
Because I'll take us in a totally different...
Oh, we had 2 follow-ups
No,
here.
it's a little different, so
Okay.
that's fine.
You mentioned the NSA position that you didn't get.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how that was different from what it is that you're doing now, and if that is still appealing to you, maybe sometime in the future?
Yeah. It was pure math. I'd be sitting in a dark room with a computer for days on end, which, excites me, I think. So I don't know. I like coding. I love coding. So I think that would have been very exciting for me. I think that I probably would have missed a lot of the communication. A lot of people hire math-focused people that can pretend to speak well, and they hire them to be the face of their company or the face of their group. I think that that's probably where is a better fit for me right now. I want to be able to do the math analysis, but then be the person who sells it, who sells the product. I think that's probably the next area I'll go into. I obviously would still love to work for the NSA, but I think that at this point, just with the government is standardized pay grades. At my pay grade, I'm already up into management, so I wouldn't be able to get to do what I wanted to originally unless I took a severe pay cut. And that's not fun for anybody. So we'll see.
Doesn't sound like there's much travel when you're sitting in a room with a computer.
Also
either.
true. Also
Right.
true. Unless it's that whole, your analysis is different and you have to fly somewhere and prove it's right. That's what I'm hoping it would be like. Fly somewhere foreign to give a PowerPoint presentation.
That actually ties into my question.
Oh, great.
Because it sounds like what you do isn't that math heavy.
It's not.
And so I know you got a good math education here. So what other things did you learn at Carnegie Mellon that help you succeed in your job now?
Critical thinking. I think that some of the questions I ask, people have never asked, and they're like, "Why? How did you know to ask that?" Seems very logical to me. I don't know, but it just people don't have the same background that you do, so their brains don't work the same way. So you get hired into a position, and you're asking all these questions, and they're like, "Oh, so your dad was in the military, or your brother's deployed on a ship?" Or I'm like, "No, but that just seems like a really dumb place to put that fire hose." Like, I don't know. Like, I think I would trip on it, right? So I mean, it's just really approaching a subject from many different angles and being able to continually ask why, because there's going to be somebody who's going to ask you those questions later, so you better know the answers up front. So I just, critical thinking, I think, is the huge thing that enables me to be successful. And common sense, but
Harder to teach.
harder to teach that one. Critical thinking can be taught, so.
Can I ask a couple of specific questions about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, maybe.
So you right. So you have all of the various programs that you're managing. Can you give us some more specifics about what that entails? I mean, how many people are involved, and is each one kind of different? And what is your day-to-day interaction with those types of programs?
Right. So for Spy 1 Radar, I'm going to give you a little background on some of the just insanity that is government. But basically, Spy 1 Radar was developed in a suite of combat systems equipment. So they basically developed the guns, the radar, the missiles, the sensors, all together. And this was a Lockheed Martin product. And they basically handed over this weapons suite to a ship. And they said, we're going to plunk it in the middle of the ship. It's going to be called Aegis, and it's amazing. And it was. Spy 1 Radar is part of this combat system. In 2002, they decided that it cost too much money to be categorized as just part of the other system. So they broke it out into its own system, which is how my office got cognizance of it. However, they didn't transfer any of the documents, they didn't transfer any of the data, they didn't transfer any of the money that goes with managing it. They didn't transfer any of the management strategies, plans, parts lists, anything that would be helpful to my job. So in 2010, we decided that we're going to continue building Navy destroyers. Before that, we decided, but in 2010, we put pen to ink. So there's a new ship contract that was actually just let in January of this month, where there's supposed to be new spy radars on the ship. Well, in order to recreate and start building these radars again, they wanted us to go through an audit. They said you have to go through a full rate production decision review. The Pentagon has to authorize that you are allowed to start rebuilding, producing these systems. So in order to go through a full rate production decision, you have to go through an independent logistics audit. That's where I come into play. So they said, okay, Emma, you have to lead the government side of this ILA. So I had probably 30 to 40 people helping me, which is great. Unfortunately, since all of the documents were missing, it doesn't matter how many people you have helping you, they're all missing. So that's when I got a book thrown at me, and that was the crying debacle. But basically that was a very tense moment. That was the hardest thing I've probably done in this job. I actually had to argue whether some documents we had to recreate, some documents, and I actually got this answer a few times where I said, hey, do you have this document? Yeah, we wrote it before you were born. Oh, helpful. Okay. Do you actually have it? Oh, no. So, you win some, you lose some. But we had to actually write a bunch of these documents. We had to do all of these things, and we had to build this whole team. So we actually passed full rate production. I got a big award for it. It was a huge effort, and it was amazing. But that was a team of about 40 people. That's something we just went through for Spy Radar. Tactical Environment Processor is a very small project compared to that. It's only a few $100,000 per system, dollars. So that's only going to be a few $1 million of my budget each year. So that's pretty simple. So I probably only have 2 people that work on that for me. They work in San Diego on that. That's probably like 1 hour a day, 1 hour every other day, whereas SPY during that audit was like 16 hours a day. Dual band radar and SPY right now are about 50-50. I spend 5 hours a day on each of them. Do not work 8-hour days. I went into this for the work-life balance. No. And the common array power and cooling are catastrophes right now, and so I think they will become more time-sucking soon. But right now, so dual band radar is there's just really no simple way to explain it, but it's 2 separate radars that are combined. One's at Lockheed Martin, one's at Raytheon, so it requires a lot of management overhead. You have to go to both facilities, you have to check on both products, you have to manage both industry teams. So I have counterparts on both of those teams. Since both of these products are going to ships that are being built or are built right now, we also have military field activities that we work with very closely. So I'm in California every month, hanging out with the field activities. And then single duty switch tube, we're actually just writing the specifications for it right now. So I'm kind of in the process of, does anybody know what this is supposed to do? Can anyone help me? Why are we building this? So, we're just getting there. So that's probably 2 hours a day of just thinking, like racking my brain for what is the best approach on this. So it really is a huge mix. It varies. One project will ramp up, one project will ramp down. I have one dedicated personal assistant and 1 or 2 interns at all times, and then I have field activity teams designated for dual band radar. It's about 12 people that help me with the dual band radar. The SPY support staff that I have is shared with the engineers, which is just difficult. But that's about 5 or 6 people that we share. So that's kind of random projects and random support staff.
And are any of those individuals military?
Yes. My personal assistant is retired Air Force. He's great. He's over 6 feet tall, so he gets a lot of respect in rooms. So he's a wonderful guy. And then the military, I work directly for a captain and a commander. So those are my immediate bosses on the product side. On the logistics side, it's Noelle, my female boss. And she's a GS-15, so she's the highest level government employee that's not a senior executive. So yeah, it's a good mix of military and civilian.
I'm trying to remember if there were other questions that I was going to.
He's got one.
About.
Yes.
Have you been ever able to leverage your crew experience with these things?
I have. I had an admiral who said, "My son needs a rowing instructor. Do you want to be the coach?" And I said no. But yeah, everybody loves rowing. And I go to Boston for work. That's where Raytheon's production facilities are. And the head of the Charles Regatta is in Boston every year. So I've actually gone every single year. Convenient.
The perks.
The perks. Right, back to the perks slide. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think that you managed to answer all of the other ones I was going to throw at you.
Good. Yes.
What is the favorite not directly job-related thing that you've not job-related benefit that you've gotten?
Maybe besides travel, because travel's amazing. I think this goes along with travel, but the wonderful world of per diem. When you travel for the government, they pay you like basically double your salary every day you're on travel. And when I was a submarine auditor, I had to go to Hawaii a lot. And that was rough, took an emotional toll. My skin got so dark and, it was rough. So I think the travel has been great. I think also just the number of people that you can meet in such a short time. You walk down a government hallway in any kind of government building, there are 37 projects happening on that floor. So the number of people and the contacts that you can make within one day continue to astound me.
Awesome. Well, if you guys have individual questions, or, I mean, I know that she tempted you with this earlier, but I believe that Emma's got like technical specs on stuff. If you'd like to talk to her more specifically about any of that. We have a little bit of time now before they'll kick us out of the room. And I think her cards are back on the table.
By the cookies.
By the cookies. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Emma.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea.
Yeah.
No, I'm in school right now.
Okay.
So